Hey everybody, in this video here I wanted to talk about Cleanspark. I'm sorry if you can hear my dishwasher in the background, but we're going to look here at Cleanspark and their future earnings. They do have earnings coming up in about a month or so. We're going to look at that and I'm going to give you kind of where I think their earnings is going to really start turning around. I don't think it's going to be this quarter. But let's get into all of this. We're also going to look at the charts here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ring the notification bell. I definitely appreciate you guys. Check out the links down below. And let's just get into this. Now, first off, I want to set you guys up with kind of where my mind is at. I want to show you their December mining update. And many of you know they mined 464 Bitcoin in December. Many of you also know that for a good 5 days or so, their Georgia facility was down on almost all of their machines. So that definitely dropped their exahash a bit. Therefore, their Bitcoin mined in December should have definitely been more. Now, that wasn't the only site that was down a bit. They also let their Norcross, Georgia site down just to kind of help out the community, keep the grid stable. As some of you know, Bitcoin mining can actually help out the grid at times, just by the fact that they can be very flexible in their power consumption. But before I leave this page here, I want to say that I expect moving forwards, especially into January, moving forwards obviously, for their Bitcoin production to be closer to 500, if not 550 Bitcoin mined per month. They have been dramatically increasing their exahash. And just for a little bit of context, they hit a high of 22 Bitcoin. Their average for December was around 15, but their average the month previously was right around 18. So I'm going to expect an average right around 19 moving forwards. So we're going to go off of those numbers. But here's a little insight into this quarter that's going to be reported period ending the end of last year, December 2022. So that month in December, they reported 8 million, which is pretty much right around what each month previously was. So I think their earnings that's going to be reported is going to be somewhere around their last earnings. Hope that makes sense how I said that. That was kind of confusing sounding. My point is, I think they're going to be right around this 26, maybe 27, 28 million dollars for their earnings coming up here. But I specifically want to get into their next earnings and when I think we're going to have, you know, record-breaking quarters again, like this 41 million that we saw. This was towards the end of Bitcoin, towards the end of the bull cycle. And while yes, you see that Cleanspark's revenue has been substantially declining, this is mainly due to Bitcoin's price, and Bitcoin's price has dropped a lot more than Cleanspark's revenue has dropped. And this is due to Cleanspark's continued increase of Bitcoin mining. One thing I want to just tell you guys off the bat is a Bitcoin at around $30,000 means Cleanspark beating their previous revenues, in my opinion, and getting record-breaking revenues again. So imagine where Cleanspark will be in terms of their revenue growth when Bitcoin is pushing its way to 60,000 over the coming months, potentially year or so. Now, before I get too ahead of myself, I wanted to show you just Bitcoin and kind of where it is and what's been going on for Cleanspark for their quarter they're about to report. Well, starting since October, it's going to be October, November, and December is going to be the quarter they're about to report. And you'll see here that Bitcoin has been anywhere from 21,000 at its high, which is right around where it's at now, funny enough. And there's definitely going to be a potential resistance here for Bitcoin. But you'll see that Bitcoin has been anywhere in October from 21,000 to as low as 15,500. So moving forwards into the coming months, into the next quarter reported, it's going to be very important to kind of think about where Bitcoin is going to be in price from January, February, and March. So far, we're off to a decent start with January's Bitcoin that has been just ballooning since the beginning of the new year. If we see this trend continue and Bitcoin continue to steadily increase, our next quarter will definitely be that turnaround quarter. But this quarter we're about to report could be kind of similar to the last one, maybe a little better, maybe a little bit worse. But remember, they did have a severe storm that definitely hampered their Bitcoin production in December. So really quick guys, I wanted to show you a couple of things before I get into Cleanspark's chart and a couple things there. So let's do some math here and just think about where their next months will be at in terms of revenue per month, okay? So I'm gonna do this based on a 19 Bitcoin per day times 30 days in a month. You're looking at about 570 Bitcoin a month with Cleanspark. I think it's pretty safe to say that's right around where they'll be, maybe higher, maybe lower. But just based on that 570 per month, let's times that by, say, a $20,000 Bitcoin to play a little safe, just in case their Bitcoin production is less or Bitcoin's price is less. We're playing the conservative game here. Well, that leaves them with about $11.5 million per month, which puts them right around 34 million per quarter. That will be a pretty good start in the right direction. And what's really going to be important here, of course, is where Bitcoin continues. Does Bitcoin drop under 20? And we have, you know, this kind of dead cat bounce, which I don't really expect. I do think that Bitcoin has bottomed out. And the more we get away from that 15.5, the more it kind of becomes public perception, you could say, that we did hit the bottom and we're on our way up. People start getting FOMO, which we've kind of been seeing lately. But, you know, in my honest opinion, I think this rally is a little early, but I did expect, something of this nature in anticipation of the coming halving, which is about a year and 3 months away. And when we're about a year away, we typically see this kind of anticipation, this kind of hype on Bitcoin. It starts running, which would definitely help Cleanspark. I'll definitely welcome an early rally for Bitcoin because this is going to help Cleanspark quicker. But I do expect this quarter we're about to report to be one last kind of quarter until things do turn around, until Bitcoin's price does start on the uptrend. And we've already kind of been beginning to see that. We'll see if it continues or if we just fall and break 20 and, stay under the 20s for a little bit longer. But I really don't expect it for much longer. And I do predict that not this earnings, but the next, they're going to start seeing that revenue increase again. And it could be substantial if Bitcoin's price does start rising up towards 25, towards 30,000 potentially over the coming months. We'll see if that happens. I remain optimistic. Bitcoin could of course just trade sideways, which honestly that could still give Cleanspark a good coming quarter. But let me give you a couple of things to look out for here. This quarter they're about to report here in the middle of February, they're expecting about 30 million in revenue. If they end up coming in line with that, we will see a nice little increase in revenue. However, it's still a drop year over year. And as I've said before, I'm no Nostradamus. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell the future. I did say, a couple quarters ago that these coming quarters could be a little iffy, could be a little lackluster as Bitcoin's price continues on the downtrend. Now, I'm not perfect. Remember, hindsight is 2020. If I could predict the future, I would have said, hey, sell right now. It's in the 30s. It's in the 40s. But it's a lot easier said than done. Looking back, it seems a lot more obvious. I got caught in that euphoria cycle, as did many of you, thinking that Bitcoin was just going to continue to go, continue to run, and we weren't going to play the typical halving cycles that always happen. And boy, was I wrong. But in the end, throughout this, despite, losing money overall, I don't regret believing in Cleanspark because I do see the picture with this company. I do see that their exahash continues to grow and their Bitcoin mining and soon accumulation will continue to grow. They did utilize a lot of this Bitcoin to sell to stay afloat, to not have to dilute us shareholders. They do have some dilution plans, but they didn't utilize all of that, which is definitely a good sign. And I suspect that we're not going to be in this bear market for too much longer. So I do believe Cleanspark definitely made it through this, making very wise decisions in my eyes. They did have to sell some of that Bitcoin. Otherwise, they would have diluted us, which I kind of prefer the selling of Bitcoin. Having said that, moving forwards, I definitely hope they can try their best to continue to hold Bitcoin. If not, using that Bitcoin to continue to grow like they have been doing. But looking at the chart, I did want to show you guys a very good indicator to watch. This is the 50 and 200 MA cross. And let me show you some history on Cleanspark. If you would have utilized this drop, the red line dropping under the green, if you would have sold right there, you would have missed a lot of drop. You would have missed a lot of losses. And then when it starts picking up, you see that curl. This is another thing, side note, this is another thing I want to show you guys with EMAs and moving averages. It's not always about just where the levels are. It's also about, is the moving average curling downwards or curling upwards? And how far apart are they? Are they about to cross? But here's another buy signal, the 50 and the 200 cross. The 50 breaking above the 200. If you would have bought here, you would have enjoyed a huge run from about $4 to the 40s. And you could have sold anywhere along the way and made profit. Could have set some wise stop losses, which is definitely a good thing to do with some risky small caps, and especially things that are very volatile. Now the 50 to 200 cross doesn't always give you 100% accuracy. There are times where it'll cross and then just fall back right here like this. But I do think the 50 and 200 MA is a very useful tool to watch. And one thing you'll see is it does look like this 50 is starting to curl, but the 200 is still falling. Keep an eye on these and see that 50 start to push its way towards the 200. That's going to be very important to watch. And obviously we're going to want to see Bitcoin continue to grow in price. But hopefully you guys got something out of this. I know I get a little excited at times and my thoughts get very jumbled up. This is going to be pretty fun to edit, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider hitting the like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. I put out daily videos. Thanks as always, guys, and have a good day.